Mornings, brothers and sisters. And we resume our morning devotion online. Today's morning devotion is on Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Chapter 7 to chapter 12 is the second half of the book of Ecclesiastes, the second part. And it's different from the first part. The first part talks about emptiness. I should say that they both talk about emptiness. But the first part talks about how many things are not reliable. There's nothing that you can really hold on to, that you can rely on to achieve something or gain something. And he says since all things are like that. So that's what it means by emptiness. That many things are not reliable. And it's always like that. They all each have their time. That you cannot rely on it or that there's anything new. But we also know that all things is in God's hand. So how do we deal with these worldly matters that we have no control over? They are not dependable. So while we are beneath the sun, it's as though we can't really feel God, but we know God is in control. So the best thing to do under the sun is to enjoy our lot that God has given us. And that's what chapter 5 and 6 is talking about. And when we come to chapter 7, to the end, and it tells us everything is meaningless. But what's meaningless? Meaningless is that we have no control over. No, we cannot rely on it nor control it. So we cannot control our own destiny. What's the path ahead? You have no control over it. Nor do you know what will happen after you die. So what should we do under the sun? Since it's so empty. His conclusion is that we ought to fear God and to leave from the toil and receive blessings. But how do we fear God? From chapter 9 to chapter 12, it talks about this. So yesterday we talked about chapter 9. And we said that since all things are not reliable, and chapter 9 tells us that. Okay, let's try again. Chapter 7, chapter 8, it talks about that we can't have no control over all things. So, in other word, we say is that since you cannot control it, then it's filled with risk and danger. Death that we have no control over. There are many things we have no control over. It's a world filled with dangers. Yesterday we talked about in chapter 9 that in a world that is filled with dangers, we need to take hold of the portion, the lot that God has given you. And we talk about timing and opportunities. In a world that is filled with danger, God is speaking to the Jews at the time. Indeed, there's nothing they can do that they can keep their lives. It all depends on timing and opportunity. But you got to believe that God will give you this timing, and God in heaven will give you the lot and portion He has assigned for you. So, at the face of the danger and death that fills this world, people need to hold on to the portion that God has given to us. This is talking about the attitude they ought to have to live. And so, how can you take hold of the portion God has given you? In the circumstances that is filled with danger and risk when you have no control over. Nor can you control or know or understand. But God has reserved a portion for you, and you got to take hold of it. And today we come to chapter 10. It's a continuation. The title I'll give it is to have wisdom and to take hold of great matters and small matters, and to rise above the circumstances and dangers of the world. The world is filled with dangers. You understand now, you don't need to go back to the time of Persia. The world is filled with danger. Politics is filled with danger. And the economy is filled with dangers. Financial difficulties. Military dangers. Dangers of war. Dangers in the economy. Matters great or small. There are problems. And you could die at any time. We have no control over it. We cannot control it. But in these circumstances, what should we do? So my conclusion for chapter 10 is that with wisdom you ought to grasp hold of matters great or small. But even wisdom is not dependable. In chapter 1 to 6, we mentioned that all things are not reliable, even wisdom. But wisdom is more practical. Wisdom comes from the fear of the Lord. If you can take hold of the portion God has given you, that's wisdom. So the wisdom is not talking about the worldly wisdom, but the wisdom that comes from the fear of the Lord by satisfying God. Knowing that even though we're living in darkness, we're living among dangers. During the years of Babylon, of Persia, that there are many things that the Israelites have no control over. It can be said that the world, the circumstances, the kings are all influencing them. And that's how they were confronted and challenged in the world. Like we in our world today. When COVID come upon us, that all we can do is try to learn how to cope with it. And it's not to say that, oh, we're going to destroy the virus, COVID-19. We can't do it. So the world is saying that we need to coexist with COVID. And some countries like, I'll just treat it as like the common flu. They say, yes, people will die, but, well, people died anyways. And there are people who are unable to cope with. So to cope with it, that is to rise above it, that you can handle it, you can overcome it. You will not let it cause you any harm or grief. And the wisdom, the teacher he is teaching is that we will need to trust in God's protection. The world, even money, cannot protect you. Sometimes even vaccines cannot protect you. But God will protect you. We need to have this kind of wisdom. But when I say I have this kind of wisdom, then I need not worry about anything. I don't need to work. Then I'm all set. No, it's not like that. So it's not the previous chapter, like we said, that since I have no control over anything, then I'll just let things be. I'll just be very passive. It's not to say that since I can't control anything, well let's just play and enjoy my days. But let me tell you, many people are like that. Even in America, in Europe, in the society. I don't understand why that for vaccination that there are people who are which their rallies against it. Because you're stopping me from enjoying life. Just let me enjoy life. I have this freedom. It's the mindset of people. But we who fear the Lord should not be like that. We take hold. We seize the opportunity that God has given us. We know that God reigns in heaven. And I cannot influence the world. But the world is in God's hand. I cannot influence God. What I'm saying is I cannot control God. It's not that when I do certain things, God will definitely do certain things. There's no fixed correlation. But I'm doing these things is not so that God will reward me with anything. But I know doing this is the best. Because God has gifted me with. Then I will cease to understand and have a grasp of it. And what today is talking about is that no matter matters great or small, great matters, small matters, I will need to take hold of it. In the timing and opportunity God has given me, whether I can encounter great or small matters, I will need to take hold of it. In the previous chapter, we said that we are not just laying on our backs, and nor am I just wasting my time in leisure and games. But I will seize every opportunity that God has given it. God has given us. But then there comes a question. So does it mean that I need to grab hold of great matters and not small matters? No. He repeatedly say that in matters great or small, we need to take hold of it. And I divide it into 3 paragraphs. First paragraph, verse 1 to 4. Use wisdom and take hold of the matters great or small. A, As that flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Even as fools walk along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they are. If a ruler's anger rise against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offenses to rest. Take hold of the opportunities God has given you and of the great and small matters. Do not be passive. Do not just spend your life in leisure. You need to grab hold of it. Great things or small things. A dead fly is a very small thing. But when a dead fly lands in a perfume, it will give it a bad smell. So a fly, the whole vast of perfume will go off. So in the small things in life, in the small matters, you are filled with wisdom. You have done it. But even a little bit of folly can outweigh your wisdom and honor. It will outweigh your wisdom and honor, like how the dead fly outweighs or will give a bad smell to the whole perfume. There are 100 matters. 98 of them you have done an excellent job with wisdom and honor, but just a few matters that you have done it out of folly. Then those 98 matters, the wisdom and honor that they have brought you will be all gone. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Oh, what does that mean? Then everyone's a fool. Our heart inclines to the left. Sometimes in the TV shows or in the novels, we see that a sword is stabbed to the left side of the chest, but they didn't die. Why? Because their heart inclines to the right. Oh, that's wise, isn't it? No, that's not what it means. Inclines to the right. The roots of the word in the original text on the right. It means to be right. That is correct. The heart of the wise is right. So, so it can be described as stronger. In the Old Testament, we say that on the right it means on the southern side, and the northern side is the left. So we say that even where you live, even if you live in Judah, or you're living in Samaria, or that you're living in Jerusalem, when we see your choice of living, of where you live, it's something you need to take hold of. It's very important. Like it appears to be a small matter, but it shows whether you are wise or folly. In the southern side, the right side, it's brighter, and the north, it has a meaning that is being covered, hidden, engulfed. It has the meaning of dark. It means darkness. So you're a person of light or of darkness. Are you a blessed person or a cursed person? It has got a great deal, a great influence from how you make your choices of where you live. But here it's saying they're higher on the right and on the left. The teacher is not so clueless. Of course, he knows that the hearts of people incline to the left. But when he said this, he had the small matters, even where you live, matters. Even a walk, even a fool walk along the road, they lack sense and shows everyone how stupid they are. When he walks, his eyes is like up on the top of his head. They are so arrogant. So you don't appear to look good, then you wear a nose ring on your nose. And you look at him, it's like, sign. And even though if you carry on, continue on, it's a small matter. But it shows your foolishness. It shows everyone how stupid you are. So a small matter, it's walking. Well, a great matter is that is when you stand before the king. And how do you walk? If a ruler's anger rise against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offense to rest. Be careful, danger is all around. If the ruler is angry with you or is opposing you and they're seeking you out, they're looking for you, they think you're no good, then what do? It's easy to say, well, then I'm going to flee. But the Ecclesiastes said, no, you have to stand there and face it. Yes, there are dangers, but you need to resolve it with wisdom. And it's not simply leave it and you'll be fine. It's not. It's not putting a set, postponing it and not facing it. These small or great matters will decide what will happen to your life. So, with calmness, you will not make great mistakes. So great matters or small matters. Small matters is the way you walk. Great matters is whether you are running away from your ruler. All these are opportunities. So let's look at the second paragraph, verse 5 to verse 15. The title I give it is that great matters have problems, small matters have problems too. We've got to act wisely. Great problems have There are great problems, small problems, but the ruler will act in his own way. Moses have received this word from God. The teacher has received this word. I'm also giving you this word. What we're facing today is much like what the Jews had faced during Persia, when Persia was in power. The Persian Empire was in power. And during then, there's also a great gap, a big difference between the rich and the poor, and the strong devour the weak, and there are very few protection. The circumstances is even more difficult than ours today. Especially the Jews, they have lost their nation. Today we have our own nation and city, and the protection of the law. Our situation is much better than theirs. So, if they're able to apply it like that, then we can apply it even more. That there are problems with great matters, small matters, and we have to act wisely. Let's read verse 5 to verse 7. There's an evil I've seen under the sun, the sort of error that arises from a ruler. Fools are put in many high places, while the rich occupy the low ones. The low ones. I've seen slaves on horseback, while prince goes on foot like slaves. There's an evil that I've seen under the sun. That is a great matter. There's a problem with the ruler. The foolish rulers are sitting in high positions, while the prince or the nobles, the honorable people, they're living. They occupy the low ones. And between a master and a slave, the slave is riding instead of the master. It's on horseback instead of the master. There are a lot of dangers, and it leads to death. This is an evil. It means that it will bring a lot of problems, and these are great matters. It arises from an era that arises from the ruler. That the people who are in a position, life are very low. And those who are in ruling position are those who have wisdom, and they make the decisions. And that is a great evil. That is a great problem. When we're facing such a generation, an era, this is the problem of the era. It's filled with danger. It's a dangerous era. Those without wisdom, they're running everything around here. and the rich is being oppressed by them. When we're facing these circumstances, what should we do? Here it says, from verse 8, whoever digs a pit may fall into it. Whoever breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones may be injured by them. Whoever split logs may be endangered by them. If the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed. But a skill will bring success. If a snake bites before it is charmed, the charmer receives no fee. Chapter 5, verse 5 to verse 7, it talks about that's a great problem. That there's an era with the ruler, it's a great problem. And even small things have problem. Say if you are digging a well, that you're splitting a log, that you are breaking through a wall. It's as though these are very small matters. But there is also an error with it. There are also danger in it. But in great or small matters, you need to receive wise instructions. Then it will benefit you. With wisdom, you can handle these great or small matters. If a fool sits in the ruler's position, what can you do? You need to handle it with wisdom. Even when you are handling small matters, there's still danger. You need to be wise. You need to receive instructions. Then you know what to do. If you're a charmer, but the snake bites before it's charmed, then your charm will be useless. So let's just say that your charm, the charmers, they can change a lot of things. They can change your generation. You want to put a charm on the generation. But before you do your charm, and a snake bites you, then you don't even need to do it. So everything have their drawbacks, have their own problems. And in today's world, everything's filled with danger. Then what should we do? In today's world, today's circumstances, we need to take hold of wisdom. So with wisdom, take hold of great and small matters. What is having wisdom? Then you can speak kind words. Words from the mouth of the wise are gracious, but the fools are consumed by their own lips. Fools choose to use words that will consume themselves. This is what it says in verse 13 to verse 15. And I'm not going to enter into it. And I'll jump to the third paragraph. Verse 16 to 20. The title is that the dynasty, the politics are filled with danger. But do not let your heart to be filled with criticism. Whoever is the ruler, they are bound to have errors and mistakes. Everyone make mistakes. Because evil fills the heart of mankind. The ruler can be a folly person. Like what is said in the previous verses. He will be angry with you. He will mistreat you if you serve them. in these circumstances, it's easy to endanger yourself in these great methods. Then what do? Do not flee. That's the conclusion. So, woe to the land whose king was a servant and whose prince feasts in the morning. Blessed is the land whose king is of noble birth and whose princes eat at a proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. This is very clear, then I wouldn't explain it any further. Through laziness, the rafters sagged. Because of idle hands, the house breaks. So this is talking about the matters of the nation. What kind of ruler, what kind of king will bless the country, will bless the land? But if the king is but off, who just enjoy feasting, and the prince are all feasting in drunkenness, then that's a great danger. And if they are lazy, then there will be many problems in the land. The house will leak. They say a feast is made for laughter, while wine makes life merry. When they chase after these things, then it creates many problems. Money is the answer for everything. They will spend a lot of money on many things. Then that's a danger for the land. And when you're facing these dangers that you have no control over, what do? Do not curse your ruler. Or do not have a heart that is like that. Do not revile the king even in your thoughts. Even when you're hiding in your room, do not think like that. When you think nobody can hear you, don't say it. This is speaking to us today. A lot of us, we are unsatisfied with the government, we're unsatisfied with this and that. But we believe all things, God is in control. And we trust in God. When we're facing these unfortunate events, that in our life there will be curses and revile. And we will not keep that in our mind, nor will we say it, because it will definitely fly out. What is wisdom? To trust in God, believe in God. To trust that we are not the ones who are in charge. This king reigns. I'm living under the sun, so are they. But God put them to rule, and God is in charge of all things. Above them is still God. So we only need to face God, return to God, and let God does His thing. Even if I'm unsatisfied with the ruler, do not revile them. If they're angry with me, I need to reply with calmness. And to resolve the danger with calmness and wisdom. This is talking a very practical way of life. That when we're facing such difficult times, what should we do? Do not revile. Instead, believe that God is in charge of all things. If a child is put in power, this child will be removed. May God come. Don't need to do anything. I'm just doing what God wants me to do. Judgment is in God's hand. It's not in my hand. And furthermore, everything is empty. Emptiness. It's not that if I can step down and I could change my fate or destiny. Fools don't know what they're doing. Fools work very hard. But in Ecclesiastes says, they can't even find a way to enter into the city. Why are you doing so many things? You don't even know where you're going. You don't even know the way to town. May God help us. Amen. Bless you all. Yes, Lord, our whole life is in your hand. Lord, only you know our paths. Let's worship our God.